And I guess it all comes over to me, right? Is that it,
It
Tammy?
does. Go for it. Yes.
Well, welcome everyone. It's nice to have you here once again. We do this our monthly gathering. I wish I could do it even more often, tell you the truth, but bandwidth does not allow for that to
I was to say
happen.
you're a little busy and we keep you busy. So,
You
and
do
you're already
keep me.
busy. Yeah.
Right, you do. I know it was promoted that we're going to do just Q&A today. We're not. But see, that's part of my ever running brain that constantly is changing direction as I move along. And what I really want to talk about today, I want to talk about needless struggles. We are guided by two types of energy. We have positive energy and we have negative energy. And and those sources of energy are going to dictate how you approach life, how you approach problems, how you approach other people. The problem is, in many cases, we are not really attuned to our energy. We don't really understand the dynamic, and most importantly, understand how it can impact us, both from a positive way and a negative way. Um, but we can determine what energy we tap into, the positive or the negative, even if the circumstances that we're facing are beyond our control. So if you give into negative energy, right, that is where you're going to stay. You're going to be depressed. You're going to feel anxious. You're going to feel hopeless. You're going to feel trapped. It's going to be all these things that where you put yourself in a position where there seems to be no solutions, or the solution will be something that'd be too difficult to try to reach. If we stay in an area of, if we employ positive energy, we're going to stay on the other side of that equation, which is, okay, circumstances aren't good. However, with the proper work, the proper guidance, the proper approach, we can make things better. And I think this is what I want to really talk about today, because what, I've seen, and, Tammy and I am part of a group of, for supervision with probably 25 different therapists. I also do another smaller group with therapists. And the one thing I've been hearing about so often lately is couples struggling, even though we look and we see, okay, the person who betrayed has a long period of being sober. The person who betrayed is learning, who has betrayed is learning how to emotionally connect and engage. But yet, there's still a high level of stress and anxiety. What is going wrong? And I think what you need to do is to step back, and we have to think about the situation that we're in. And this is really important. Every one of you, and when I say one of you, I'm talking about the couples, all right? Each one of you, you have your own unique story. Your story is not the same as the other people who are in your support group. It's not the same as the people who are on those blogs that you're reading. They may sound similar. They may sound that they have things in common, but they're not. And you have to own your own story, and you have to look to resolve it based on what is best for you and the person who betrayed you. When we start looking for, oh, this worked for me and that worked for me and that worked for me, what you do is you open up Pandora's box, because what you wind up doing at that point, if we're looking for the magic bullet. I don't know, Tammy, does a magic bullet exist in this realm?
No magic pill, no magic bullet, no magic wand, none of it.
None, unfortunately. I wish, because let me tell you, Tammy and I, we would mass produce magic bullet. They don't. They don't exist. So therefore, what do we find ourselves? Let me grab this. Let me grab that. Let me try this. Let me look at that. Let me read this. All good stuff. But that's not where the work needs to be done. You're not going to read, Tammy has said this many times, you're not going to read a book and find the answer. You're not going to watch a podcast and find the answer. You're not going to read a blog, find the answer. It is, okay, I get insight, but then it is processing that with competent professionals that help you get the answers to what you need. We need to be able to, again, figure out what is your objective here. Because I think we've lost sight of objectives. For the person who has betrayed, the objective is to remain sober, to understand what sobriety really means, to learn to become emotionally connected, engaged, okay? And to be able to help your partner heal. The word there, the key word is help. He can't heal you. He can't heal you. He can help heal you. Healing comes from within. Just like you couldn't get him to be sober. You can't get him to be sober. That has to come from him. You might point him in the direction of some resources that you see that, other people tell you work for them. Well, you know what? It may work for them, but it may not work for him. And that's why I go back to that story. Your story is unique. It's different. And when we keep leaning on other people to tell us their story and what works for them, and they know best for us, we just create a bigger mess than what we've been in. For those who've been betrayed, okay, what's your objective? Well, it's to heal by rediscovering, hopefully, a peace of mind that has been lost. It's to learn how to forgive, which sometimes seems almost impossible, but it's not. You may have to forgive on a regular basis. You may have to forgive the rest of your life, but you can forgive. And it's about reconnecting with that man who harmed you. That's an objective. And if it's not an objective, you shouldn't be doing this. That's an objective. Now, again, that idea of reconnecting has to be in the fact that, one, we can see that he's doing his work. And what I'm talking about here, folks, and you know this, I'm not talking about people who just D-Day was yesterday, or that we've been in it for 3 months, 6 months, even a year. It's a year plus. We're going 2 years, 3 years. When I get the call from somebody who says, hey, I need therapy, we need therapy. Okay, when did everything happen? About 9 years ago. 9 years ago. There's a lot more going on there, right, Tammy? You think there's a lot more going on there? It is. Okay. How are we not healing in 9 years? Let's say again, the guy's done his work. He's done what he's supposed to do. Now, if he hasn't done his work, I can understand. I can fully understand why it will go a lifetime. But who wants to live through this for numerous years? If you've been betrayed, you don't want to go through this for numerous years. I want to know, okay, you're sober. You're making commitment to me. You've made sacrifices to me. You have shown me that you are now starting to become emotionally mature. All right. I have to take a chance with you again. I wish there was a different way to do it. But at some point, you have to say, I will take a chance on you. Think about it. When you first got married, you say that, I'm taking a chance on you. Now, we think we know these people because we've been with them for a year and a half. Well, some people for couple days. I mean, cases, but we've been with each other for a while. We think we know. Oh, I know him. I know her. No, sorry, that's not the way it really works. But yet we take a chance. And sometimes it goes very well. Sometimes it goes very wrong. Sometimes people make mistakes that they regret. They want change. So what are you working toward when it comes to these objectives? Okay. And what you're working for then is that when you're going to determine what are you going to employ, what kind of energy you're going to employ more. Is it going to be the negative energy or is it going to be the positive energy? And I will tell you this, it is going to be much more difficult to achieve any objectives you have utilizing negative energy. So let's look at what are some of the negative energy for a betrayer. He's living in a mindset of she's never going to forgive me. Recovery work is too draining. She's always attacking me. Okay. I need to correct her. I need to tell her how wrong she is, which, by the way, I tell guys, don't do that. That's not going to help you at all. And I don't have the energy to be proactive to help her heal. That's the negative state of mind sometimes that the betrayers stay in. And they all have to be shifted because with these negative thoughts and energy, the person who's been betrayed doesn't get to see any type of real change of the heart. Doesn't get to see it. Yes, it may feel like she's never going to forgive me, but that means I need to be doing the work I have to do to change her perception and to make her feel safe. Yes, recovery work can become very draining, and I do need to have boundaries on what I'm doing and how much I'm doing. I can't grab a hold of everything. That's not going to help anyway, because you're not going to absorb it. You're just going to look at it. Okay, great. That's not going to help to make change. The fact that I feel like she's always attacking me, again, that's a victim mentality versus seeing the pain, not seeing hostility. I need to correct her again because I got to prove to her that she's wrong. I'm right. You know what? Even if she's wrong about the subject or the topic, that doesn't mean you have to sit there and say to her, "Oh, let me show you." That's not going to help at that point. And the idea that I don't have the energy to be so proactive with what she needs to help her heal, then you know what? Pack your bag and go. Because that's what you need to do. You got to find that energy. But now let's switch it over to those who've been betrayed. If you're living with the negative energy more often, where are you? How could he do this to us? How could he do this to me? Fully understand. And that's why I'm the big why guy, right? Why? Why did this happen? I want you to have that answer. But I know there are women who get the answer and they're still sitting there saying why. And that you're just stuck. You doesn't allow you to move forward. At some point, it becomes the idea of acceptance. It happened. It sucks. I wish it never did. I wouldn't, wish this on anyone in my world, but it did happen. So now I need to make the decision. Do I decide I want to move forward? Do I decide I want to do that work where I invest in him again? Looking back every once in a while at that mess, but I'm not sitting in that mess right now forever. If you're ever going to change, I don't know if he'll ever change. Now you're the parole officer. Dr. Rob used that term yesterday in one of our supervision. I loved it. The patrol, parole officer. Thank you. Parole officer. I mean, do you really want to be a parole officer? No offense to people who are parole officers, but man, what a tough job. What a tough job making sure that everybody doing what they're supposed to be doing and nobody ever steps out of line. And if you step out of line, bang, here come the consequences. Who wants to do that? You signed up to be a wife and a mom, a lover. That's what you signed up to be. We can't be there. We can't be there. He has to own his own recovery. He has to own his own. If there's this idea of, watch this, read this, make sure you're doing this, that's not helping him. You can watch and evaluate his behaviors. That is what you should be focused on. I'm not good enough for him. I'm not good enough for him because he wouldn't have done this. What are you doing here? You're eroding your own self-worth. Versus, you know what? Those are his actions alone, and they do not define who I am. And I refuse to allow that to drag me down. I will do my work that I need to do to restore my confidence, to restore my sense of worth that I have, to understand that I am special, I am unique, and he can't take that away from me to what he did. And then the big one, he could do it again. Yeah, he could. He could. And I wish I could give you this guarantee to say, nope, never happened. I can't. But again, we go back to the objectives. What are the objectives? I want to try to put this aside. Okay, we're going to put it over here, and we're going to move forward. And then where I go put my trust in God, I'm going to give him the God. I'm not going to ever bury my head in the sand, but I'm going to, give him to God. And I'm going to do everything I can do to see that I could understand, yes, he could do it, but I can't be focused there. There's too much negative energy there. It's all negative energy. And I'll tell you, anybody who does betray and you do go out there and you do that again, shame on you. Because again, you've been given a gift for a second chance. And for you to soil that gift is just disheartening. So the key is, what are we trying to do here? We're trying to create this trusting and secure environment that you can reach your objectives. And the objective finally is, hey, let us take ourselves to a new relationship, a new marriage that is so different than anything we ever had before. Now, betrayers can't do this unless they're committed to their sobriety and they're learning to become mature men. They're learning to become emotionally developed. But this is a process. And I think sometimes those who've been betrayed don't quite understand that this is a process. I hear so often, oh, he doesn't have to be perfect. But yet, that small thing happens and whack, here comes out the bat. I don't think you mean to bring the bat out. I think that's your fear that's doing that. But again, you know what? As we look at the emotionally undeveloped man, they don't have the tools. They don't have the skills that are going to allow them to give you everything you need from that emotional standpoint at the moment. It is something they have to build upon. I'm still learning to build upon mine 20 years later. Okay? We talk about, a lot of times women will say, he's just checking the box. And yeah, there are some guys who just check the box. But you know what? I need to check the box in order to learn. That's the only way I'm going to learn. Because remember, a lot of this is not natural for them. So they got to check boxes so that they learn to make it something that is natural for them. So he's not going to be perfect. And therefore, to judge him based on the effort he's putting forth versus the results. You see the effort, because he makes the effort and it falls short. Now, if we keep falling short all the time, then we got a totally different problem. But if you do the effort and we're getting it, and then also we don't get it, okay, what happened there? I always tell people, try to catch them doing something good and then gently correct when they mess up. And you know what? Again, if you think that acting too much, then you have to reconsider your objective. Maybe that's not your objective. Maybe your objective is not to reconnect. Because it's supposed to be about healing and repair. It's not supposed to be about punishing. That's not it. We can sit there and we can beat somebody over the head constantly. But you know what you're doing, especially to the emotionally undeveloped man? You are just exacerbating the fear to be vulnerable and to share. You're increasing that negative energy, which is what totally the opposite of what we're trying to create in him. You're trying to create all of this positive energy in him by saying, look what happens when you become more emotional beings. It's just moving them away. It is with positive energy. And I know it sounds like it's really difficult to do, but you know what? Nobody said any of this was easy. But it is with your positive energy that will move him in ways that will really melt your heart. And if that doesn't happen, then again, there's something going on there with him that we need to look at. John Gottman, most of you probably know John Gottman, he's the guru for marriage, and talked about the 4 different horsemen, and these are the things that would kill a relationship. And one is contempt. People who've been betrayed are filled with contempt. Understandably. It's understandable. I get it. But at some point, we have to put down the sword. And instead of communicating with that rage, we need to communicate with the emotions of sadness, the disappointment, the hurt. Those are the things that will melt somebody's heart, especially for someone who's trying to learn to be emotionally connected. As I try to finish up here, and I know I've taken a lot more time than I thought I was going to do with this. If you let somebody see with a gentle heart how they've messed up, you should really get from them a lot of remorse, and you should see strong attempt to try to correct that behavior. And if that happens, that shows that he's moving forward to meet those objectives. My wife, Terry, she told me, she goes, there are many betrayed partners who label their partners as monsters. But when you do that, what you're doing is you're really removing all sense of hope in healing. Yes, their behaviors were monstrous. And you know what? There are some betrayers who they're a little bit short of being monsters. Okay, I've met many that are antisocial. I have, but that's not the majority. It's not the majority. Again, these are men who are emotionally, again, not developed and oblivious to many things. I hear quite a bit like, you haven't sacrificed enough. Well, again, I guess what's enough? How do you put a label on that? Sacrifice. I know those who've been betrayed sacrifice peace of mind. They sacrifice security. They sacrifice the sense that, my world that I know is gone. But, you know, sacrifice has to come from the heart of the person who's betrayed. You can't sit there and draw it out. You could try, but you're going to fail. Again, as I said before, we're looking for that magic bullet, but there's no button that a counselor or the betrayer can push that's going to change that individual's heart. So I end with this. Remember, you have your own story. Try not to be influenced by what everyone else is trying to do and giving you direction and guidance. Instead, you know the betrayed partner better than anyone else does. It's the two of you that are in this. And it's the two of you that have to work through this. And that's what I would try to do. If you try to fit your story into somebody else's, all we have is just continued pain moving through this whole process. So, Tammy, that's all I got for you today.
That's not all you got. That was great stuff. And like, it made me remember I have lots of calls. One of the saddest calls I ever had was from a betrayed partner. And this was like 8-10 years ago, and I still remember it. But she didn't believe in divorce, and her goal, like you talked about what the objectives are, her goal was to make him miserable the rest of his life. And in the process, she's miserable. I thought, wow, I mean, it's like a death sentence for the two of you, or a life sentence for the two of you, you know, rather than looking at objectives of how can we move this forward. I'm just going to punish you because I'm so hurt.
And I don't think that's the objective from a large majority of women.
No,
however,
this is 10 years ago, and I still remember it.
Right.
So yeah.
But I've known those women. Okay.
Oh yeah.
But yet sometimes you get into this thing where you just feel so helpless that you wind up, that's what you're doing, not even realizing you're doing it. You don't realize that's what you're doing. But again, that's why we have to keep focus on the objective. And these are difficult shows to do. And the reason they're difficult is because, again, I think most of you know I have great compassion for those who've been betrayed. I have great
me
compassion.
Too. Yeah.
Okay, and Tammy also. Even though I counsel those who are the betrayer, but so I don't want to come across that I'm beating you up. I'm not trying to come across that you need to heal faster. That's not what I'm doing. I understand the whole concept of the trauma that you've gone through, but don't get sucked in by other people who they know better. They know the answer to solving your problem, but they don't. You two together know the right solution to the problem.
And I think you couched it well with work with professionals that know the two of you. I was so glad when you talked about, your wife, Terry, says that they get labeled as monsters, and that I hear this. They're offenders. They're abusive. Their behavior, the acting out is abusive. But to label them, then there's always the power up, power down, and there's no path to healing. And that has become kind of a mantra within, a number of the betrayed partner groups and things like that. Is that they're monsters. They're the offenders. They're the abusers.
Why is that, Tammy? Please explain.
Because I think, I don't know, I'm not even going to go into that because we got a lot of questions too, but to me, it's like, it doesn't provide a path to healing for either of you. And so I'm not a fan of that, but as you point out, everybody gets to choose. And I think that that's the important thing is, I like that you talked about, 20 years later, I'm still on a recovery journey, and for those of us that want to continue, sure, there's work to do on a daily basis, but man, the benefits of doing that work, I get to live a life completely foreign to what I was living before. And I know you use, and I should have prefaced it at the beginning, we use the pronouns he for the betrayer and she for the betrayed partner. that is just for simplicity of following who we're talking about.
Right.
There are female betrayers, there are same-sex couple, whatever.
Right.
It was just simply, we know it's a bigger world, so please don't get caught up in the pronouns. It's just so that we can have a conversation and not go, who are we referring to? So we've got bunches of questions. So without
Okay.
further ado, the first one is 5 years post D-Day and in a therapist guided TS out of home. Oh, therapeutic separation. Sometimes I have to think for the last 45 days and working on my own healing. I chose to go no contact for 30 days due to the severity of his emotional, psychological abuse and work on breaking my trauma bond. My SAPA husband is finally doing real work, CSAT, 12-step meetings, etc. over the past 2 months and making some positive shifts, learning about his ACE, processing his emotions, turning negativity into positivity, etc. I begin dipping my toes in per your suggestion by engaging him for talks on a date, but I'm still in deep wonderment at how he can suddenly be this nice, empathetic, compassionate, positive, and beginning to be accountable man, when only 60 days ago he was such an insidious and cruel monster to me, both verbally and emotionally. My heart wants to be optimistic, but can a man who has been abusive for more than 25 years truly change his abusive mindset, not just his behaviors, and maintain the changes? That's a power-packed question, but a great one.
Do you know what's interesting about this question, Tammy? It was posted at 12:30 before I started talking. And what she's talking in here, that she mentioned he's turning negativity into positivity. You're talking about the same thing I started talking about here. Yes. Why would you not be apprehensive? I could understand. 25 years. That's a long time to live with somebody who's been very abusive. But something happened here. I don't know what it was, but something happened that he now is again dealing with a CSAT, doing the 12-step, attending a meeting, have a sponsor, doing his reading. He has made that shift. I think you owe it to yourself and you owe it to him to be able to explore, what does this all look like? And then maybe even ask that question. What the turnaround? You got me puzzled. This is not you. What happened? What is your objective here to do this? And again, I think, like you said, by engaging him with talks and a date, okay, and you can right now, you take things very, very slowly, and he needs to understand that. You need to be able to see consistency. And 2 months is not consistency. But I think you should be doing exactly what you're doing right now. I go very, very slow, but it's a lot of good signs. We just need more time.
Yeah, well, and here's what I thought. I thought, oh, this is, I mean, yes, I think it's positive, but he's also, you're not together all the time. So it's kind of like dating when you can be on your best behavior and only show certain sides. So, taking it slowly, dipping toes in, like, all makes sense. So miraculous transformation. Yeah. I mean, some people actually can go, oh my gosh, I finally get it. And I'm really going to, completely engage in it. But, I'm with 12 steps, there's an amends process, because guess what? I still have to use it. I have to use it way, way, way less than I did early on. And I know to use it. And I know that, but I will feel better. So like Eddie was talking about, it isn't about perfection and that he's going to magically be, completely different. It's like, okay, you're starting to see those breadcrumbs of like, I'm starting to see this. So cautiously optimistic. I'd say cautiously optimistic, but, and be optimistic, but, and hold your boundaries. What are your boundaries, for making sure that, like, you have that safe space for you too. But yeah, I'm a little hopeful for you.
Yes, I am too.
Okay. If my husband's sobriety definition says he will not talk individually with women via text, phone, or email, but then he does talk to my good friend via phone and text individually about personal things, is that breaking or violating his sobriety?
Yes.
Yeah, hugely. And why the hell is, I'm sorry, I'm like, why the hell is he talking to your friend? Like his
Right,
girlfriend.
right. Why are you talking to your friend? Or at least telling you, hey, I'm talking to your friend the other, before about something. But again, even then, if it was about a subject that, I don't know what the subject would have been, but that wasn't anything personal. But you said texting about personal things. Yeah, absolutely. He's violating it. This is not good. It needs to stop. It needs to stop.
And I would go so far as to tell my friend, it's my friend,
Oh,
I would go
yeah.
to so far as to tell my friend that, this is part of my safety things that, so please do not engage, and, please
Yeah.
block him or whatever you need to do. But that I have concern because this feels like a double betrayal on some levels, that she
Hmm.
is also participating in it. So I don't know. I don't know what what you've set up for rules, but yeah, 100%, you know, it isn't, there isn't like, well, she's female, but she's a friend, so she's different. Like that is such
No.
a,
This is a very inwardly focused man. Okay, this is the guy who doesn't give a thought to, I think, Dawn, that how is this action going to impact Dawn? Okay, he's
no,
not giving that thought.
no,
He's just doing. And
yeah.
again, this is that again, emotionally, undeveloped. And he needs to work on that. That's part of what he has to start to become, that he becomes outwardly focused and says, what does this action, how will this action or inaction impact on everything, for everything
Hmm.
that he does?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. This feels like I made a justification of like, well, it's, I mean, all the stuff that he's lying to himself, about. So, okay, this is a great question and actually gives us an opportunity to promote
Ah,
some stuff. So, Eddie, do you hold workshops for addicts? My husband is finally leaning in after a few years of doing nothing into childhood trauma and how it's linked to his addiction. He's reading 2 of your books and learning a lot about himself. However, he is still struggling with true empathy for damage he's caused and accountability of emotional abuse. Guess what? Got put up today. The Inner Child Work Group. Eddie is going to be leading another one on the seekingintegrity.com site, 6-week course. It will start May 10th.
when does
I
it
got so many
start?
dates. Didn't
It
we
starts
decide May 10th?
I don't
Yeah.
know.
I think
Okay,
it's
okay.
on here. If I will go find the link, when Eddie leans into this, and we are also in the process of his new book. He's creating a series that will be 2 6-week courses, level 1 and level 2, for why
Why
men don't
men,
get it.
why men don't get it. That's a great way to do it.
It's the
That's exactly
subtitle.
it.
They just
And
don't
that'll
get it.
probably
So
be coming out maybe toward the end of summer or the fall, something
yes,
like that. We haven't
as
landed on
soon as
that
we
yet.
have a date, we'll post that. But I'm
All right.
so excited to have that. And I'm thinking, well, first of all, I'm kind of thinking, Dawn, that the last question might need the sex addiction 101, but for sure, out of the doghouse or the new group
Mhm.
later. But I think
All
there's
right.
enough going on right now. Out of the doghouse work group would be a
So
good thing. But
how do
yes,
they get a hold of this, Tammy? How do they find this,
I'm going to
the
put a
course?
link on, but if you go to
Okay.
seekingintegrity.com, for those of you viewing this afterwards, you'll see a tab called online work groups, and you'll see all the offerings, including for betrayed partners. But there's sex addiction 101, porn addiction 101, out of the doghouse, Eddie's group that we, like I said, just got posted this morning for the inner child work, going deeper. Troy Love's attachment work groups.
Mhm.
And then this one isn't posted yet, but will be. And then one final one that's a little different is the Couples Healing from Betrayal work group will start again May 5th with Dr. Susie LeBrock. And that's really good, of like grieving losses together. How do we communicate? What does healthy sex look like for us? So it's not for somebody who's just had discovery of all of this, but for couples that are kind of going, now what do we do? It can be really useful. So
All right.
anything else you'd like to add? Because okay. All
I
right.
think you got it covered.
Okay. My essay husband will bring up my childhood wounds when he does something that hurts. Ooh, I
Ah,
I get angry when I hear this. I don't blame you. I'm afraid of being the scapegoat. I would really rather experience him as saying, I would feel hurt too if you blank. Am I
yeah.
wrong here?
No, you're not wrong. I mean, again, he's looking for the out. He's looking for the out, and you know what? You're oversensitive. You're just, because of that past wound, you won't give me a break for this. Again, inwardly, childish, adolescent man. And that has to change. And you have to learn to grow up. Yes, are there things from your past that probably lead you to behaviors that, you know, are not, very sensitive at times? Yeah, probably. But he's not the guy who should be bringing it out to you. That's not him. That's for you to do your own self-reflection, your self-analysis, so that you can figure out, okay, this pain point of mine does cause me to escalate more than I really should at times. That's it. But no, he shouldn't be playing counselor with you.
Yeah, and wow, what a great deflection of like, it isn't anything about him, it gets to be about you.
Yes.
And we talk all the time about, do betrayed partners have their own stuff? Sure. Uh, and they can or not deal with that later. But we even talk about, when you're dealing with the trauma, it's layers, and a good professional is going to help you with the layers. Right now, you're in crisis. This has all happened. Dealing with this is enough. Dealing with what happened when you were a child, if you want to later and deal with that, sure. But yeah, that would be possibly a healthy boundary for you is, what I would like to hear from you is this. And, if you're going to point back at that, we won't be talking about it until I
That's
can talk
right.
about it differently. So
That's right.
you are
Exactly.
right. So, okay, several times during our first few years of recovery, I experienced him saying that my childhood endangerment fears or my abandonment pay were because
Okay.
of my childhood without him accounting with honesty or care. So does this, oh, I can't, healthy for him to bring up during apologies.
Yeah, if it's healthy for him to bring it up during
Yeah.
apology.
And I have a wound because I have been used against me before with my essay
Yeah,
husband.
this is similar to the last question we have.
Mm-hmm.
No, you can't be going there. That's not where he should be going. He
No.
got to just have the accountability, own his stuff, apologize for what he did, not try to associate it and say, oh, you're making more out of this because you went through blank. No, that's not it. You messed up. You have to say, you know what? This is my fault. You know what? And I take responsibility for it. Again, now, can some of your abandonment pain lead you to, again, taking action that are more escalated? Could be, but that is for you to determine, you to figure out, you to work with a counselor on to resolve, not for him to try to use it as a back door to let me exit this conversation and leave it on you that, oh, this is really all about you and it's your fault. Again, adolescent thinking. That's what it is. I'm looking for the escape. And it's hurtful. And I'm sorry
And
that
how
you have to
much
go through that.
better if he took responsibility and instead of exacerbating the pain, he's helping to take it down a few notches, and going like, okay. And then you can even start going like, okay, this is not the same as that.
Uh,
So
but
I don't see it. No.
emotionally um, avoided men or emotionally unavailable men do not have that capability.
Emotionally
Remember,
immature men
right,
too.
right. That's what it is. That's what they are.
Mhm.
They remember they don't want to sit with emotional distress. They can't sit with it. It causes too much anxiety. So they look for coping mechanisms and strategies to avoid. And they have to learn to sit with that emotional pain.
Mhm.
That is one of the most critical things I think anyone who has an addiction needs to learn to do. Because I know I ran from my pain. I'm sure you ran from yours.
Yes.
And it just caused all kind of chaos. Today, we sit in our pain. And because we can sit with this pain, we make rational decisions most
And
of
we
the
have
time.
tools, positive tools to use to help dissipate it. Like I know
Right,
first thing I can do is I can, ground myself or call a friend, that
right, right.
shifts things quickly. So,
But I also think, Tammy, you brought up a really good point with the last question, which again, very similar to this. The key is not just to continue to get frustrated because we keep doing this, but to put up a boundary. Okay, you need some kind of boundary. If he's not going to own his stuff, and he's going to keep trying to use you as the scapegoat for it, there has to be some sort of consequence to that. So this way he finally gets it and says, ooh, you know what? I'm going to have to fix this problem.
Yeah.
So let's not just say, no, he's wrong. Let's do something to try to fix it.
Yeah, and I really prefer, the 12 steps taught me to make amends. And I find amends are so much more meaningful than sorry, so a true amends is I'm working on doing it differently. I'm working on
Right.
repairing the gap that I've caused by my behavior, not just sorry, forgive me, dismiss me, poof, gone. So, okay. Several times during our first few years of recovery, I experienced him saying, that was the same one. Sorry, I didn't click. My husband and I are 8 months from the last D-Day. Many discoveries. Oh, I'm sorry. Over 24-year marriage, not disclosing. He is finally in recovery, 7 months sober. Yay. Been with a coach for 5 months. For 3 of those months, we've been working on disclosure. After finding his,
Oh no!
after
Don't say that.
I know, yeah. After finding his final draft, it lacked in both honesty and ownership. My coach has suggested we wait another few months for disclosure so my husband can develop more empathy, honesty, and ownership. I have waited decades and need the truth. What do you suggest?
Well, one, if you're looking at that, so I assume there were things that you knew about that weren't in that disclosure that he and his coach were going through. So there have to be, what I'm doing is I'm probably having a conference session with your coach and his coach and you and him, where you can talk about your disappointment about what you've seen. I don't know how you stumbled across the draft. I mean,
I'm concerned
I
that
know
there was a stumbling. Yeah.
I'm gonna let you talk about that, Tammy, that part of it. But I think the four of you need to get together, and what you could talk about is the idea of, you know what, just to find out. And again, I think you have to go in there as opposed to being angry, go in there and be inquisitive. Why would you omit things that I knew? Why would you not be honest? If you're saying you want to do this the right way, how come you're still struggling today to be able to put everything out there? So I would go in there with that type of attitude. But what is it that you ultimately want? Think about what's your objective. When we have a disclosure that is completely transparent and honest, and that he has empathy. That's what we're looking for. So right now we have to find out what is preventing that from happening. So I think going in and trying to have a very constructive conversation between the four of you. And the other thing I would find out is how much did his coach know about disclosure? Yeah, I know you're going there too, right? How much did your coach know? Did the coach know about disclosure or not know about it? How much training is it? Because that could be something else that's going on here too. So Tammy, I turn it over to you now.
Oh, there's so many red flags here. I hear that he's been with a coach. So coaches are for present and going forward in practical things. That's not therapy. So very different. I just like Eddie was talking about, I have concern. Eddie's mentioned, Dr. Rob's peer case consultation group, and those are professionals that were trained with this. And one of the most talked about topics is disclosure. So having highly trained professionals, CSAT trained, that are therapists, have done everything. You also say he's been with a coach, and I know it's short. So, is he going to a 12-step every day? Is he doing our drop-ins? Has he been doing a work group? Dr. Rob, a disclosure document is a couple of pages, but it's finely tuned with the information in categories. It isn't every narrative of paragraphs and and every single thing. You need the truth, but like Eddie said, you're going to get partial truths because it feels like he's not really prepared. But if the purpose of you will never get 100% of everything that you perceive will help you feel safe. And if you have 150 questions and he answers all of them, which I don't advise that at all, but you'll have 150 more. So if you're looking for, we're going to do this with the purpose of having a foundation on which to build, and there will be things, and there should be a plan for if he forgot something, and people can, but if he's doing a thorough timeline with his qualified professional to prepare for this, if you have your person, but I highly recommend that you don't be peeking at documents. Like, I mean, then what's the purpose? It's already out there. So I'm concerned. I hope that you check into this more, really think about, like Eddie said, what are your goals? If it's just learning the truth, you can read the document. If it's preparing to be on a different level going forward, there is more work to do.
Right.
Okay, next question. Before D-Day, I used to have admiration for my husband with his actions. He destroyed that, and even though he is in recovery, I don't admire him because of all his betrayal behavior that he did with the knowledge that he was hurting me. How can I go back to feeling the joyous love and admiration I felt for him before? I truly love him, but my love now feels tainted.
Your love, yeah, your love does feel tainted. My guess is that you still love him. You just don't like him right now. And again, yeah, because the trust is gone. Okay, I mean, here it is. You're somebody who you gave your heart to and said, "Here, hold this. Be careful with it," and he kicked it around. So therefore, I think what the way it comes back is again through consistency. You said he's in recovery now. Okay, what are you seeing? Are you starting to judge him by his current behaviors? Does he seem to be more outwardly going? Is he more curious? Is he more caring? Is he more in tune to what your needs and wants and desires are? If you're doing those types of things, if you're seeing that man, the man who you fell in love with, coming back and more, that's when things will change. And that takes time. But this is when I say, catch him doing things good. And if you have to, write them down. And if when you keep seeing that and you got kind of reinforces in your head, yes, he's making changes. Yes, he's evolving. Yes, he is becoming the new guy. So that's the way I would be looking at it.
Yeah, if you can have positive feelings for the work that he's doing on his recovery, not even him, but that he's making progress on that, maybe it's a place to start. I actually wrote down when Eddie was sharing earlier that one of the things that I see often is people want to go back to, and
Yeah.
and I think that's misleading, in that he was lying to you. You were living in a facade life. So what I hope the goal would be is to be in a honest relationship. You will never trust him like you did before, because he can hurt you, that. But can you build a relationship that's based on true honesty and I know affection, because I see lots of couples, and I know Eddie does too, that get to a place that's very different, but so much better, deeper, richer than they could have ever had before. So there is hope. And I think if you can just find moments where you go, oh, I appreciate that about him, that he's working on that may be the baby step you start with. Okay. Speaking of baby steps, so we are 3 months in. Is getting rid of contempt a baby step path? Would practicing gratitude be a good step or way to ease feelings of contempt? Or do you have any other practical suggestions?
One, no, it is not a baby step path at all. It is one of these that we cut it off right at the root and we just be done with it. There is no place for contempt in a relationship. And research will show that, one of the major drivers, and this is all Gottman research, one of the major drivers that he found that lead to divorce is going to be the contempt. So we do want to cut it off at the knees. Two, what we want to do is, again, you hit the nail on the head. What is the antidote for contempt? It's appreciation. It's appreciation and it's gratitude. It's gratitude. Finding those positive actions that your partner has, those qualities, seeing the changes. Now, again, you're only 3 months in. This is very, very early. Okay, so it's not like we're falling back into into each other's arms. But in order to calm that contempt, and I'm assuming it's on both sides. I don't know. I'm gonna say it is, but it might only be on one. One, it is something that has to go, and the boundary has to be: if somebody becomes contemptuous, conversation's over. We're walking away. We're done. We're not having this any longer. But that is part of it. But yeah, gratitude, again, catching him doing things that are done well, that he's doing well is a good thing, but also understand you are very early in the process and there's a lot of bumps along the way.
Yeah, yeah, and maybe it's gratitude that you're still in the struggle together. Lots of relationships just they leave right away, so that there's hope for the future. Okay, next, I just wanted to share that with fellow listeners that I have not attended any 12-step program meetings that share or called partners that betrayed us monsters. Yeah, no, it's not a partner. Okay, our meetings, I don't know which meetings this is. So our meetings focus on self-care, healing journey. Great. Yeah, I mean, we hold that space in our drop-in group.
Hi.
I've been on some threads where I've seen some other stuff. So
I hope you have that meeting. I hope that's a great meeting. That's a wonderful meeting. Invite everybody else to it, because but there are some, we're not going to take our head and bury it in the sand. There are some groups that's the way men are labeled. Okay. Tammy didn't just come out of this out of the air. I didn't either. My wife didn't either. We know from experience that unfortunately there are groups that become tainted, and that's a lot because of leadership. But anyway, I don't want to get into all that bashing, but let's go on.
Okay. So somebody was asking, I'm also answering about your work groups. It's getting posted, and sometimes the website takes a bit. It got posted this morning, so give it a couple hours. By tomorrow, it'll be posted. How much time in good recovery needs to pass before my SA husband is safe to start couples work and make love with again? How long does it take for his words to become honest? There's no magic time frame. Like, there's no bullet, there's no pill, there's no wand, there's no magic date of like X amount of days in or months in, and then poof, it's about action. So what are your thoughts?
No, you are exactly right. You can't put a time frame on. This is for you to be observant. And once again, the key word, we've used it several times today already: consistency. Are you seeing consistent behavior that makes you feel safe? Once you start to see that, that's when you can start looking at, okay, let's take additional steps. And I'd probably jump into the couples work before I start going to the physical aspect. But that's where I would look at.
Okay, next question. My addict husband identifies with emotionally voided child. I respectfully disagree that most partners are filled with contempt. Do you see a difference between contempt and valid, understandable feelings of anger? I don't condone unwillingness to make an effort to heal for either person. However, I think it's important to remember an emotionally adverse addict will tend to see any display of negative emotion as contempt and as inappropriate. Any advice on how to handle the situation?
Okay.
That's great.
So again, all right, and again, we are not sitting here and saying all partners are this way. What we're saying is that there are partners who do lean that way at times, and many times it probably is because, again, their amygdala has hijacked the brain. But we can't continue to allow that behavior to be reinforced or to continue, because all that does, it just exacerbates the whole problem. So I guess the bottom line with this question is, any advice on how to handle the situation? What is the actual question, Tammy? Do I see a difference between contempt and valid understanding feelings of anger? Absolutely. There's a major difference between the two of it. You could be very angry and be justified in that anger. Okay. Whereas contempt is vile. Contempt is belittling. Contempt is that I intend to cause you verbal pain. That's contempt. Whereas anger is I'm expressing how upset I am about your behavior and what you've done. So there are very, very different camps, but there are many people who, when they're in this trauma, they can be very, very contemptuous.
So we need to address something in the chat, because I'm feeling, so Tammy doesn't have access to all the groups, nor do I have time to go to all the groups, but we know which ones she does, and it feels like we are judged, because as someone who takes the addict side, Tammy should not be on the support group. I am so offended by this that I am being judged as someone who takes the addict side. I am pro healthy attachment. I am sorry.
No, well,
I'm very upset.
can I jump in
Please
right now?
do, because I am really
I've worked
hurt
with
by
this.
this.
Okay, rightfully so. I've worked with this woman. Okay, and Tammy, somebody just said we
Thank
all
you.
love you. I've worked with
Well,
this woman
not this
for a
person,
couple
so.
years right now. Okay, and I will tell you, she's not pro anybody. She's looking for people to heal. She does incredible work. She's one of the most dedicated people I've ever seen in this industry. I mean, selfless, puts in so much time, so much energy, willing to help people who call, drops everything to do it. So I'm sorry, you are incorrect with what your assumption is there. And and I would think you need to figure out how you came to that assumption, because I can tell you for certainty it is completely erroneous. Tammy, you are amazing. You know what? Hey, everybody's gonna get upset about things at times.
I know,
Not
and I shouldn't
everybody's
take
gonna
it
love us.
personally. Yeah,
You
no, and I
know.
get it, and it's not about me, but it's, man, I have such a heart for
Okay.
betrayed partners, and
I know you
it's
do.
hurtful when somebody perceives that that isn't the case.
I know.
So, but thank you, Eddie. The work groups are posted. Please join those, and there are betrayed partner groups, and I am not facilitating them. So, Angela Spearman is the next one for betrayed partners in a prodependent lens. We talk all the time about codependence. We do not pathologize betrayed partners. No codependent language, so it's all good. So,
one last thing. I know we're running late. There's a question here about coaches. I think there are some very good, well-trained coaches. I think there are some very well-trained coaches out there who do know about sexual addiction, understand pornography addiction, understand the disclosure process. They are good, and they're also they're helpful, because from a financial means, people can afford them to do that. So we're not trashing all coaches. I was just asking the question of, does the coach know? That's all. I got the same question of, and I have, of counselors. How much does that counselor know about doing disclosure? I've seen some ugly disclosure done by counselors. Okay, so anyway, we are not anti-coach, or at least I'm not anti-coach. I don't think Tammy is either. They serve a very valuable role. Okay.
But go look at the ICFC. I forgot, International Federation of Coaches. I forgot that. But what coaching is and what therapy is, very different. And working with both having a coach and a therapist can be super helpful. But just make sure that they know what they're doing, that they are acting within their license. That's all I ask. So, all right. So, and thank you, you guys. I see a bunch of great things. So thank you I didn't mean to have a little meltdown, but
Oh,
thank
it's
you
okay.
for the support. It's all good. So, all
All
right.
right.
Till next time.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Eddie. Bye.
Bye.